All right, so here are our slides for today. So I did say to folks as you came in today that one of the things I was going to ask you about, so every time we start a session, I like to share my slides with you so you can have them immediately, but you don't really need them. We'll be looking at my slides most of the time. But if I wanted to share my slides with you right now, how would you do that? Does anybody want to tell me how they would go about sharing slides with other people on a Zoom call? Anybody want to talk me through it? And there's more than one way.
You can, I would think you can go to the share tab
Yeah,
thingy, get the link and send it in the chat.
beautiful. So one of the beautiful things with Google Things is usually when you have the item open, the file is open, you have a beautiful big share button. They're not shy about the sharing. So you click on the share, and inside the share box, we have two kinds of sharing. We have people with access and we have general access. And Ilda, you mentioned that I could get a link and share it with you in the chat, right? So that would be this general access. And I use that a lot when I'm sharing with people that I don't know what their Gmail accounts are. I can just grab and I can determine here, right? You could be a viewer, you could be a commenter or editor. So whichever one of these I pick, the link I send you will give you that level of access, right? So right now, I don't want you all to be, I don't need you to comment, and I don't want you to be able to delete all my slides accidentally. So I'm not going to make you editor either. So you're all going to be viewers, and I can now just come over here and copy link. It tells me my link is copied, and if I go to my chat, and I'm going to paste it in here. All right, so that is a link to our slides. What if I decided that I wanted to give you editor access? Do you think that a new link will be different or will be the same?
It will change slightly because of the access.
All right, so let's double check that, right? So we're gonna get out of this for a second. I'm gonna open a new slide in here. So the link I just gave you in the chat was this one. And now I'm going to go back into share. And instead of viewer access, I'm going to change it so that you have commenter access. And Ilda says it's going to be a little different. Does anybody else have a feeling one way or the other? Is it going to be the same? Is it going to be different? I'm going to copy the link and I'm going to paste it here. It's the same. So the link stays the same. And if I shared this link with you today and tomorrow I went in and changed the access, all of you would have a new access. The link would stay the same. So I don't have to change the link that I give you. I just have to change the access behind it. And so sometimes when you're sharing things with people, you want to give them limited access, or maybe they could edit for today and then tomorrow you don't want them to edit anymore. Or so that's the difference between these two different kinds of sharing. Another thing I think through when I decide which way I'm going to share, the general access, everybody gets the same. So whatever link I give you, I'm going back to viewer now, it's going to be the same link. Everybody who gets that link has the same level of access. Up here with people with access, I can assign different kinds of access to different people. So an example in my work, often I create a view only link for the people that I'm presenting to. But if I was working with a colleague and we were going to collaborate on the slides, I might invite my colleague to come in as an editor, and I would invite them here. The other thing about this, including adding individual people like this, is you can also take away the access very easily. So depending on the kinds of materials you're sharing, I work in a lot of organizations where, we have a shared folder, and if someone leaves the organization, I want to be able to maybe manage that they don't have access to that folder anymore. That's when it would have been good if everybody had access through the people with access versus the general access. So just to recap, two ways to share within their share button. One is people with access, one is general access. People access, I can give each person a different level of access. and I can remove the access. General access, I give one link. Everybody who gets that link has the same level of access. I can change that level of access without changing the link. Okay. So that's very important to all to know and to feel safe in, because I think when I first started using Google, I totally thought the link was different and I would have to copy it and paste it again and send it to people again if I changed it. And now I know I don't need to do that. I can just change, I just change the level of access, but the link stays the same. Okay, so that was me sharing, and I saw someone in the chat mentioned, absolutely, I could share my screen so you could see my slides. What I want to do is I want to make sure that you have these slides after today. So that has happened now. I have shared my slides with you, and I'm imagining that you're going to find them so useful that in a couple of weeks, you might want to come back to these slides. How would you get back to them? So someone shares a link with you, they send it to you via email, they share it to you like I did today through the chat. How would you get back? How would you save that or hold that or find it again, say like 3 weeks from now? Who has a suggestion? And you can write in the chat if you want to, but very welcome to unmute and just say out loud what you think.
Can you bookmark it?
So there's bookmarking, right? And right now I'm in Chrome. And if I wanted to bookmark something in Chrome, I definitely can do that by clicking on the little star, right? So I do people do you so I definitely bookmark websites. I don't bookmark I do on occasion bookmark something in Google because I know I'm going to get back to it quite often. So in this case, to bookmark it, I would go over here to this little star and click on that, and it will ask me where I want to put the bookmark, and I could manage it that way. For me, and this is, again, it's not really that there's rights or wrongs. We're mostly looking for the most efficient way to do things. And if I bookmarked everything I ever wanted to come back to, if they were just individual files, I feel like that would get a little messy for me. So I don't do it that way. I do that with things where literally, like, after I do this workshop today, I'm going to have to go into a shared spreadsheet with all my colleagues to track a lot of data. That is something I'm going to have to go back to every week. That's something I definitely would bookmark. But slides that Nell shared with me, I don't know that I want them bookmarked. I might want them in a folder somewhere. Ilda, were you unmuting?
Yeah.
All right, what's your thought?
When you share, it goes straight to your drive. So there's a way when you go on your drive, you check shared and
So
you
if we
can
go
find
back, right, so if I'm going to pretend I'm you. What I'm hearing you say, Ilda, is Nell shared a link with me. I opened it, and
Mhm.
now when I go to my drive,
I go to shared with me and
yeah,
then just put your name and anything you shared with me shows up so I can find it that way.
excellent. And that happened automatically. So if your drive is open, and not everyone has their drive open all the time, when I come into my office or my desk in my house every morning and I open up my browser, which is Chrome, I have it set up so that the very first tab is my drive. So my drive is open all the time. But if your drive is not open, you may have to log into your drive before you can do the things we're talking about just now. So if your drive is not already open and you open my slides, this may or may not work. But if your drive is open and you open my slides, it definitely will save it in the shared with me. And Ilda said a very nice thing about the fact that, yes, you can see who shared it. And that is one way to sort this folder because it's very automatic. Anything you open that's a Google document is going to end up in here. And so it gets, and it's chronological. So it's going to get piled on top of. So if you're waiting 3 weeks or 2 months later and you want to come back to my slides, you might be able to find it by searching for me. Again, I like this as a backup, but I generally don't think, it doesn't make me feel very safe and secure that I could get back to it. So I'm wondering if there are any other ideas or additional ideas of how you could make it really easy to get back to something that was shared with you. So sometimes people tell me they like to download, right? So if we go over to the file, when you have a file that's open, like we're looking at slides file right now, when I go to the file tab, I have the option of making a copy, and I also have the option of downloading it. And those are two ways that you could keep a version for yourself somewhere that you really know where it is. It could be on your computer if you download it, or you could make a copy and have that go straight into your regular drive. The downside of those two in this situation is that after we're done today, I might go back into my slides and add some new things, right? You may have asked some questions, or there might have been something I said that I said incorrectly, or I learn a new thing that's related. So I might add something to my slides. And if you download it or you make a copy, you will not get those changes, right? You'll get a version that is like a shot, like a photograph in time. And anything that happens after that moment that you downloaded it won't show up in your version of the slides. So sometimes that's great. Sometimes that totally works. If I'm working with students and I want them all to have their own version of a worksheet and they make a copy, that's brilliant. That works perfectly. But when it's something like slides where maybe there'll be some updates, or maybe I also created a user manual recently that we're just going to keep updating. And if you made a download of that, it would be frozen in time and all the new updates that come along won't show up. So if this is a document that we want to make sure we're getting the most recent version, that the person who made it is maybe a crazy person and keeps adding things to it. My favorite way is to add a shortcut. So with making a copy and downloading, basically we're making a second version of my slides. What a shortcut does is it just gives you all a little shortcut into my slides. There's only one set of slides, and you guys now have a shortcut to that. And what's great about shortcuts is you can use them, you can have many shortcuts to things. So in this example, if I go to my Google Drive, and I look at our folder for today, let me see if I can get back to that. So I'm definitely someone who uses Google a lot, and I have a lot of stuff. And that's why I need to be really organized and conscious to do stuff where sometimes if you don't have as much stuff, you can just kind of throw it in there. But I have to really put things where I know I can get back to them. So I have a folder that's got today's date on it. I'm going to go ahead and open that up. And what a shortcut looks like is this. So this document, the Seattle Digital Equity Initiative Skill Framework, this is a document I use a lot. I want to access it in many different situations. So today I want to access it with you guys in this Google Club folder. Tomorrow maybe I do a different workshop, or I'm working with some other colleagues on something else, and I want to have access to this too. And if I know I want to have access to it a lot, kind of like we were talking about bookmarks, I might want to make multiple shortcuts. You can have as many shortcuts as you want. I'm going to guess there's a limit at some point, but I've never hit the limit. And you could have the shortcut in this folder, you could have a shortcut in another folder, and it means that you don't have to keep moving in and out of your folders. For example, our club today, I could have put that up, I could have made a shortcut to that in my regular drive so I could get to it more easily. Right now I have to click at least 3 times, right? Because it's a folder within a folder within a folder. All right, so that's some efficiency talk. So we talked about how I can share my slides with you, which I wanted to do, and I've done that now, but I actually want to share my whole folder with you. How would you share a folder with people on a Zoom call so that they have access to it, not just showing it to you? And again, you can unmute or you can put it in the chat. So again, we talked about a single file, and we were looking at slides. Pretty much any file, you'll see the same thing. You have that share box up in that right corner. But when I'm looking at my folder, I don't see anything like that. I don't have a nice big share button. All right, I'm going to jump in, but as I start to speak, if this spurs anyone's imagination, you're absolutely invited to unmute. So when I look at this page, right, this is a folder in Google Drive. I have a number of files in here, different kinds, right? So these are my slides. There's a spreadsheet there, PDF, another spreadsheet, a Google form. And up here, I have these, I don't know, phrases, names. This folder is called this. As I scroll over it, I get to see the full name there, right? So it's today's date, Google Club 1, navigating the digital landscape, ... This folder is inside this folder. And this folder is inside this folder. And this folder is shared with me. Or it might say drive, if this was in my own drive. We call this the breadcrumb trail because as you move backwards, you get back to where you started, where you began. Like it's going to either be your drive or shared with me. And from the breadcrumb trail, first of all, it's helpful because it tells me that this folder is inside this folder, and I might have forgotten that. But when I see whatever's the furthest to the right, that is the folder I'm in. And when I look at that folder, if I scroll over it, I get that little, it shifts from being a regular cursor to a hand. That tells me it's a link. And if I right click on that link, I get the option to share. And I can do the same thing we just did. It's going to look just like what we saw by clicking on the share button in the file. So now I'm going to click on share. And again, I could share it with individual people, or I can get a general access link. And I can do both things, right? So I could invite, Liz Elena, my colleague, up here, and then I could still come down here and grab the link. And again, I want to make sure I feel comfortable with the level of access I'm giving you all. So I'm going to check here. I'm happy with viewer access. I'm going to go ahead and copy that link. And now in the chat, I'm going to give you that link, which is, I'm going to label it for us. So now if you click on that link, that whole folder is going to be in your shared with me, and you could make a shortcut to the whole folder because, let me go back. If we right click again on this, the name of the folder up here in the breadcrumb trail, if I go to organize, I can find add shortcut there as well. So earlier we saw add shortcut under file, which you'll see when you're inside a file. But when you're looking at a folder, you don't see it. You don't have those tabs. So the thing to do is the right click, and then you get the menu. And they just recently, this drop down used to be really long, and now they've made it shorter, but it means it has these little nested menus that pop out on the side. So add shortcut, you can also change the color of the folder. And my last little quiz here is if I change the color of the folder, does that change the color of everyone who has access to that folder? Do they see the same color I do? So I'm going to make this folder orange. I'm going to go back to here, and now we see that that folder is orange. By default, they're always gray, and you can only do this with folders. So I made this orange. Does that mean if you open the link, are you seeing an orange folder? The color of the folder is absolutely personal. So that's important to know because as a teacher, you might think, oh, I made my folder orange and I just shared it with all my students, and now I can just tell them, go to the orange folder. And that won't work unless you tell them how to make their folder orange. So the color of the folder is totally personalized. Shortcuts, you can even rename shortcuts. So those are also very personalized. They don't impact other people's access. So your shortcut is your shortcut. You could call it stupid shortcut, and I'll never know. All right, so that was my little basics. We're going to do that. I'm going to ask that kind of question at the beginning of every Google Club because this to me is the basic. And today when we're talking about digital resilience, part of digital resilience comes from a feeling of safety and feeling like you know where your stuff is. I feel like if I don't know where my stuff is, then everything else is only going to feel more chaotic and crazy. So I want to feel very sure that I know exactly how I'm sharing things. I want to feel sure I know where my stuff is, that I can get back to it easily. And so we're going to practice that a little bit every time. And you guys are going to be stars. I know some of you already know it, but every time until you can tell me exactly what we need to do, and then I'll stop doing it. But okay, so that was a lot of talking about how we move around inside Google Drive. These are our slides. We're going to go ahead and get started today specifically on this idea of digital resilience and how we can use what digital resilience is for us as teachers and how Google tools can be used. So we're going to spend a lot of time in the beginning talking more about digital resilience and how to understand that and what resources are out for that, which kind of gets into what are digital skills, because digital skills are kind of a subset of digital resilience. So we'll talk a little bit about all of those things. I'm going to go ahead and put it into slideshow. All right. So just a reminder, I know you've probably seen this before, but you can always find out what other workshops are coming, other announcements from DYCD by going to this DYCD announcements website. We'll look at this again at the end, but just so you know, when we do your survey, your evaluation survey, this is the information you'll need. And this is the thing we just did where we were comparing those two links, and they are actually the same. Okay, so the objectives today are that you'll be able to define digital resilience. You'll be able to identify some tools that can help build digital resilience or ways to use Google tools to build digital resilience. And then we're going to talk a little bit about instructional routines that you're going to be able to name, or at least be able to go back to a place to find instructional routines. This is a ridiculous, horrible slide, but basically I wanted to give you a list of all the Google Club meetings for the year. You can see the theme is throughout. We will certainly be talking about Google stuff, but we're doing it from this perspective of building digital resilience. And there's a link at the bottom here that will give you a nicer, several page long, more descriptive list of all the Google Clubs coming up. Google Club always is on Wednesday. It's always from 4 to 5:30. And we'll promote them I think Liz Elena usually promotes things a couple months in advance, but you actually could register now if you wanted to, but you don't need to. But you'll have this when you look at the slides. All right, so welcome back to those of you who have been part of Google Club in the past. Again, we're going to talk about digital resilience. We're going to talk about Bridges, which is a toolkit to help you with your own digital resilience and also with bringing that into your instruction or work with your clients and students. We're going to look at one section of digital skills, which is these foundational digital skills, which include some privacy and security and some what they call gateway skills, which are real basic skills. I would say what we looked at today could be considered, for teachers, could be considered gateway skills. And then we'll look at some at the Google tools and how those can work with those foundational skills. And then we're going to look at instructional routines. And that is what we will cover today. Okay, so at the end of last fiscal year, our last Google Club, people spent some time planning what they hoped to maybe learn over the summer or some things they were going to try out. And whether that was what you did or you've never even been to Google Club before, did anyone have any adventures or learn new digital things over the summer that they'd like to share? And I'm going to start with one for me. So one of the things I've been doing a little bit better since the new fiscal year started is I have been using delayed delivery of emails. So I'm pretty famous for sending emails like at midnight. And I don't necessarily want people to know that I'm doing my emails at midnight. So I have been using in Outlook the delayed send tool. And I didn't trust it at first because I had some weird experience like a year or two ago where I tried to do that and I felt like it never sent. It made me nervous. So I've been really working on that if I'm sending an email after work hours and it's something for like a lot of people, I have it go out at 9 a.m. the next day. And I feel more satisfied with my ability to do that. And I think that it's nice. Like I think it's nicer for other people not to get emailed at 2 in the morning. And I also, yeah, it's a good solution for that. So I'm pretty happy with that practice. Anybody else have anything like that or any other? Oh, you're a shy bunch. Yes, Sean.
I don't know if this is appropriate to this, but I I went overseas this summer and wanted to send a whole bunch of photographs. And in the old days, I would copy and paste and send them in emails, and I realized that that was very limited about how much you could send, and it also had got filled very quickly. But I learned how to do it through Gmail, and it wasn't Google Slides, but it was of a Gmail account that I learned how to do it. It really helped a lot.
That's so exciting. That's very cool. Have you tried Google Photo? Did we talk about Google Photo?
We did not actually.
So Google Photo is their photo saving tool. And if you save so on my phone, which admittedly is an Android phone and very Google oriented, but you can download Google Photo on any phone you want. Um, and you already have Google Photo just by virtue of having a Google account. So you can upload any photo from your phone straight into Google Photo. You can make an album there, and then you can send the link just to the album. And other people can either add their photos to the album or just look at your album. So that could be an interesting tool for you. I know before the summer you had talked about that trip and we had talked about My Maps. Did you ever end up using My Maps at all? No. Fantastic, though. I hope you had a great time. All right, let's see here. Oh, I like it. So Sharon is sent me a direct message that she's been practicing muting messages this summer for mental health. It's a good idea. Controlling how we get information is really something that's our responsibility because other people are just going to shower us with their information and we get to decide how we get it, where it goes, when we're getting it. So I love that. Yay, some laughter. I love it. All right. So thank you for that. If you have other digital adventures or any other kinds of tips. Oh, I see one. I learned how to share a document on my screen via AirDrop. I love that. Oh, and scheduling weekly reports. Yes, we were just talking today. I was also talking to a colleague who we've been frustrated by people inviting us to meetings, but not doing a calendar invite, but just sending an email with a Zoom link in it. And then we need to make the calendar, save it as a calendared thing. And we're like, why are they not sending it as a calendar invite? So it's interesting, right? Like, again, how do we share things like that? And managing our schedules is a big piece of this managing our information. So excellent work, everybody. So continuing on from there, we're going to get into digital resilience. And my question to you is, if you think about something that you feel you are really good at, it's not a judgment on anyone else, but you feel really secure in your ability to do something. So, and that might bring up also thoughts of things that you feel like you're not really good at or that you don't like. I have a lot of thoughts about things that I feel like, oh, I wish I was a better sewer. I really believe that sewing machines are full of ghosts and I can never trust that the sewing machine will work again when I used it. But with technology, I actually feel like with my computer, I can make it work. It might take me a day. I might need to go get some help. I might need to watch some YouTube videos, but I feel really strong and my memories of trying things out are generally of success. Like I'm not remembering all my failures. I'm remembering my successes. So I'm not asking, it could be tech for you, but in your lives, just put yourself in how it feels in your body when there's something that like I am really good at baking a certain kind of cake, or I am really good at driving. I'm really good at teaching a class, whatever the thing is that for you, just imagining it gives you that sense of self-belief, accomplishment, success. And then as you think about that, if you want to tell us what the thing is, that's fine. You can put it in the chat. That would be lovely. But think a little bit about what it is that the feeling gives you, like what the activity, like are you just naturally brilliant at it? Like if you're baking a cake, like every time you bake the cake it's 100% perfect, or is it something that you had to practice? Is it something that you had to fail and then succeed? You tried out some different things and it worked out? Designing and decorating. So tell us more. Tell us more. So designing and decorating your house? Or is it like documents that you're talking about? And Kayla, I'm writing down your name, so when I see your PS309, I know that it's Kayla Washington. Anybody want to share? Oh, I love it. So on PowerPoint, newsletters, calendars, very nice. So graphics, you're kind of a graphic designer, it sounds like. That's fantastic. So tell us a little bit, even in the chat, it's fine. How did that happen? Was it like you woke up one morning and you were brilliant at it? Or what led you to have this sense of skill? So you've always loved to do it, which I think is something for a lot of us, we always love, I think for many of us, if we think about the things that we think we're really good at, often they are things that we've done a lot. We practiced a lot. And maybe at the very beginning, there was something that made it a nice experience. So we kept doing it. And then that led to having the skill. Nice. So here everyone knows now we have someone here who can help us. If we're gonna have a party, Kayla can help us with our invitations. Anybody else want to share something they think they're really good at? Beautiful. So Camille says that she's really good at creating teaching and learning aids for students. So Camille, tell us more. Do you feel like that was something that you just had it in your body? It was just waiting until you became a teacher so you could do it? Or did you practice or watch videos? Or how did you learn to do it?
I think it came from the fact that I taught at primary school in Guyana. You guys call it elementary school here, but in Guyana we say primary school. I taught at the primary level first, then I went to high school, then I was teaching teachers in training. So one of the things they make us do is create all of these teaching aids because we don't have at that time, we didn't have, the ready-made teaching
Right.
learning aids. So we had to use whatever material was available. And the thing is, I didn't think I was really good at it because I saw some fantastic ones from my colleagues. But because I know how helpful they are, I continue doing it. And then like I said before, I teach at Campbell, and twice recently somebody came in and they came to my classroom and they said, "Wow, this is so amazing." And then my director came back and he said, "Oh, Camille, this is really good." And I'm like, "Okay, I must be really good at this then."
That is fantastic. So, Camille, can I ask you one question? So, have you ever
Yeah.
failed when you were trying to do something amazing in this area?
Have I ever?
Failed? Like it didn't work. You made
Oh,
something. Well,
yes,
yes.
yes, because sometimes I make the writing a little small and then I forget that I was making it small and I make it big and then it doesn't look as attractive. I'm like, oh gosh, I have to do this thing over. So yeah, I do, I do definitely do.
Excellent. So you guys have been giving me exactly the examples that I know are true in my life too. And when we're talking about, and this is all to get us into digital resilience, because in digital resilience, this is that piece that so often people think they're not good at tech and they only remember their failures and they don't trust their abilities. And we want to get to a place where they feel this way about what they're doing. So even if they have a failure, because it happens, they're resilient. They can get over it. They're open to new things. Camilla, you mentioned you saw other people's work and admired that, and you probably learned from that, right? So that's another piece of digital resilience for us is that we see other people's things they're doing, and instead of that making us feel like, oh, I could never do that, we see it as an opportunity to learn something new.
Mhm.
Marisol, I see that you mentioned that you have OCD and you can't function when things are not organized, right? But I mean that might be a struggle at times, but that's probably also made you a really efficient and effective worker and maybe an effective teacher. So again, these challenges in our lives can come together. Did you want to speak, Marisol?
Yes, I had mentioned that I'm really good at organization, and it just drives me crazy when I can't seem to find things
Yes.
if they're not organized. That's why I said laugh out loud. I feel like I have OCD
So
when
again,
I see when everything's a mess.
Do you think you're good at organizing it then?
Oh, I'm very good at organizing.
And so you're frustrated if you come into a situation where something isn't as organized as it should be,
Oh,
but
it drives me crazy. It drives me
but you
bananas.
but you've developed skills, right? And have you ever failed? Like, has there been something that you thought you organized really well, and when you came back, you couldn't find
Yes,
the thing? Yeah. So we've had
yes.
these
Hmm.
experiences. Yeah. Go ahead.
Definitely. I have several times.
So again, turning this around, both for us as people teaching or working in adult education, thinking for ourselves to develop digital resilience and our sense of belief in ourself and our ability to learn the thing or overcome whatever the obstacles are and to remember success, that we also turn that around and create opportunities for the people that we work with to do that. So whether they're students or colleagues. And so we're going to be talking today about ways we can develop our own digital resilience, what that can look like if you don't feel like you have it already. If you feel like you have it already, that's fantastic. So then we're thinking about like, how do I help others get that? Right. And I think school's a really interesting situation because often like I had a math teacher in seventh grade who was definitely super brilliant at math, but really bad at teaching it, right? So she had very, very high math skills, but her ability to teach it to other people, she had very little empathy. She couldn't change an explanation to help someone who didn't get it the first way she did it. And I had math teachers later who were really good at that, right? They were also very good mathematicians, but they were really good at under, taking the time to understand, being empathetic, finding new ways to describe something. That is very true. I steal a lot from math for technology because I think it's very similar. There's a lot of emotional stuff wrapped up into how we feel about math often and tech often. And they both are something we can develop more positive experiences with and feelings with. And maybe you have those already, but then, yeah, are you able to turn around and extend that hand to other people so that they're going to experience it that way too? Okay, so let's go to our next slide. There we go. So the definition of digital resilience is over here on this phone. I'm blocking it with all your faces. So digital resilience that we're talking about today, if you Google digital resilience, you will see that there are a couple of different definitions because digital resilience is also a phrase used by corporations to talk about how they are set up in case of the internet going out or whatever. So that's another kind of digital resilience, but we're talking about it here in education and regular human beings. So digital resilience is the awareness, skills, agility, and confidence to be empowered users of new technologies and to adapt to changing digital skill demands. And that's the key to why it's so important for us to work on digital resilience, which is sort of larger than just digital skills, because for our learners, they might be in a class with us today and we're going to cover a certain amount of instruction and they might learn it beautifully and feel really secure and good about using that today. But tomorrow they're not in the class anymore and everything changes because that happens all the time. Or they go to a job perhaps where they have to use, we're talking about Google today, maybe they have to use Microsoft or they maybe have to use special software for their particular job. And if we can spend some time on really helping with this adaptability, this ability to this sort of noticing of like what's similar, what do I already know, that can really help people get into that new situation or adapt to new technology, even after they left our classes. Whereas if we are just there, kind of, I sometimes feel like a tour guide. I'm trying to get better at not being a tour guide when I'm doing my technology workshops, right? It's like, here's the login screen. Okay, everyone click on the file tab. That that can feel quite comfortable and nice, both for me as a teacher and for the learner, but it's not as strong of a learning situation as maybe having folks tell me what they're seeing on the screen and wondering. We'll see later on, we can talk about notice and wonder and some routines like that come from math, because again, math is sort of the same way. There's a tendency to be like, this is how you do a certain kind of equation. Well, in reality, you know, we need to step back and look at a problem in the world and be like, well, what would be the way that you would figure that out with a math problem, right? Like, it's not all, you know, today we're doing integers. Like, it's not always the most helpful way for people to learn and then really be able to use whatever they've learned. So I'm going to make this smaller. Move this over here. All right. So as I just was saying, digital resilience moves beyond digital literacy, and it focuses on this continuous learning and adaptation. And at the bottom of it, it really does have an emotional component of helping people remember their successes, of helping people build that sense of skill and resilience ultimately. In this area, which, you know, again, they've shown amazing resilience to come to your class. So they already have abundances of that. And now we just need to help them feel it with the technology. So developing digital resilience, it's built through opportunities to solve problems and experience successes. And it is a lot of practice, right? So you might practice the same thing over and over again. It's strengthened by increased confidence and belief in oneself, and it's supported by development of helpful habits and self-awareness. And so there's a lot of, you know, as a teacher, and I know not all of you are teachers, but as a person working with students in this situation, we are all adult learners, right? With technology, we're all adult learners. We're all bringing with us all of our experiences in the past, and we may have bad memories. We may have really hit up against some walls. And so we have to kind of think, we might have to really take some self-awareness here and take a step back and be like, well, that's not what the situation is. I don't know if you've ever had that experience before where, again, I'll use the sewing example. If I decide today that I'm going to sew something and I'm going to be confident and I have my sewing machine manual with me, and I bought new thread, and I'm feeling very confident, and I'm going in with all of that, and I thread the machine and it doesn't work. What happens then? For me, as someone who has a real fear or doesn't feel very resilient or confident about it, I'm going to start remembering all my failures. It's going to be very easy for me to just kind of whirl out into, oh, this is like that time 2 years ago when I tried, you know, you go into this crazy world, and that the brain is not even able to take in new information when that's happening. So part of my self-awareness has to be like, bring it back down. This is today. It has nothing to do with the past. I have some new tools I can use. Maybe I have a friend I can call, YouTube videos. So think about those things even in advance, so you have backups. So that's the kind of thing that we're talking about. So some of it really does takes, you know, self-reflection and kind of just noticing how you get yourself back to a calm space where you can move forward, because the getting crazy doesn't help anything. And that's often part of certain cycles for people. So when we're talking about digital resilience, again, I don't know how you guys, several of you I know are teaching digital skills, and you may have lists of the skills that you're teaching, or, you know, and you can share in the chat, or if you want to unmute and tell us a little bit about what the skills are that you are teaching, like how has it been decided? What are the priority digital skills that you're covering? So I'm going to keep talking, but if you do have something, put it in the chat or raise your hand, and I'd love to hear from you about how you've decided what to teach. But Bridges Digital Resilience Toolkit is a tool that has been developed based on the Seattle Digital Equity Initiative Digital Skills Framework, which you may have heard of if you've been to any of my workshops. This Seattle Digital Equity Initiative Digital Skills Framework has 10 domains, and so there's 10 different areas of skills. And it isn't as explicit as I like generally. Like, I know as a teacher, I might want to be able to just check boxes and be like, okay, everyone's covered how to use the shift key on their keyboard. So we all know that, I'm going to check that box. That's very explicit. The Seattle digital equity skills are a little more broad. In fact, we can go look at them right here. So you have access to this document both in our folder and as a link. These are the domains, right? So they have the area of communication. So they would have a skill that would be communicate effectively, which obviously is very broad. And then they have some thoughts over here, right? So it could be the awareness, adaptation of communication strategies between behavioral norms and respect to user diversity, and that's basically etiquette. Collaborate with technology, so digital collaboration. And then as a teacher, I might need to come in here and add another column and say, okay, collaborate with technology. I'm going to work with my students, maybe as groups, they have to create Google Slides together, and they're all going to be in the Google Slides together, creating content. So they're going to have to figure out how to organize that and make sure they're not deleting each other's stuff and whatever. So this is sort of helpful, but that third column to me is what's missing. And as a teacher, I would want to go in here and like make an explicit statement about what would be the lesson or what would be the actual nitty-gritty skills that I want my folks to have. I think they're in here alphabetically, so not necessarily by priority, but we have communication, we have creation, device ownership, essential foundation skills. This is the one we're going to concentrate on today. Information skills, lifelong learning, mobile, online life, and privacy and security. And that's the other one we're going to concentrate on today. So we're looking at two of them today. So here they are. So you can see, right, use accessibility features on your computer, right? Again, this isn't giving me enough. So what is an accessibility aspect of my, like you can see right now, my cursor is really big. That's an accessibility feature. Do you feel like you know where you could go to make your cursor large? You may be someone who's like, well, I don't know, but I probably could look it up. Or you could be like, I have no idea what you're talking about, and I can never think that I'd ever want to do that. Or, oh my gosh, this is so totally scary. I'm just going to leave the room, right? There a whole bunch of variety of ways that we feel about these different skills. So what I'm going to actually ask you to do right now is take a survey. So this is called an I can statements survey. Bridges has created these for learners, for people who are studying for jobs, whatever. They have different kind of categories. This is the one for teachers. So the examples they're giving are things that they can imagine teachers wanting to do. And I can pull it up, but you can scan this QR code. I'll also put this in the chat. In fact, I'll stop. Let me just escape for a second. There we go. So let me put this in the chat, but it works very well on your phone if you want to scan that QR code and do it there. So the form looks like this. So there are two sections. There's a section on those essential skills, and then after that, there's a little section on the security and privacy ones. And you get the option of, it's very easy for me to do this thing. I might need to be able to look it up, but I feel confident that I could find instruction and learn how to do it. I have no idea what you're talking about. Oh my gosh, it's so horrible. I can't even be in this room with you anymore. So you're going to go through and answer all those. This is anonymous. It's really for you to notice for yourself the areas where you're like, oh yeah, no problem. And then the places where you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't even know you could do this. This is crazy new information. And then because it's a Google form, I can show you the results at the end so we can kind of get a sense of in the room how we're all feeling. So I'm going to give us, it's 5:01. Let's take 5 minutes to do this. And if you need to get up and stretch, so we'll come back at 5:06. And we'll look at what you guys had to say. So I'm going to stop sharing for now. All right. And I'm going to mute myself, but I'm here. So if you have questions, feel free to ask those. All right. So I have a few responses there. You guys can continue finishing that up. So this is really interesting. I'm going to share my screen so you guys can see what I can see. So when you give people, and I don't know how many of you have used Google Forms, but when you create a Google form, you can, this is the data that you get, right? You have the question area, these tabs across the top, questions, you have the responses, and then you have settings. And under the responses, I usually link to a sheet so I can have all this data in a sheet, which will be very helpful for me as a teacher later on. If I wanted to use this, as you were my students, and now I know where people feel strong and feel that they need some help maybe. So it's super exciting. No, not a single green one. You guys are all very resilient and brave already. But we had a couple that were full blue. So just to take us there, we had one on the identifying connect to the Wi-Fi signals assigned to the devices in your classroom. So that you all feel very comfortable doing. And then guiding your students, children, and adults to appropriate internet use to keep kids safe. You felt very safe, easy with that one. But those were really the only two. So all the other ones had some of you who felt that you might be able to look up the answer, or perhaps you didn't even know it was a thing you could do. So if you were to do a survey like this with your learners, how could you use this information in your instruction? And feel free to unmute if you have thoughts about that. Have any of you done surveys like this with your learners? I know a couple of you were digital skills teachers.
We've tried, but it's always seemed a little difficult for them to understand, so we will have to do them with pictures.
Ah, I love it. So you've done it with pictures. And Hilda, is that because of language barrier, you think?
Yeah, I think it's because we usually try to see what our ESL students want to learn. Even if we use the simplest version of a very simple language, it still goes over their head. So it's just learn and, 4 pictures and see what how it goes.
Yes. And I will say I have seen programs do this in, maybe you have a mixture of languages. You could do the survey in other languages.
We do. We have Portuguese, Ukrainian, Russian, French, Creole, Haitian Creole, Spanish. Having a language for each one of them is so difficult.
Yeah. Well, that's what I hope AI can help with things like that these days. But I know you can't trust it 100%, so you still need someone to read it over for you. And this could be something we could create a bank of, because I think these I can statements. So one of the challenges we have with digital skill instruction, some of you may have been participating. We've had this big kind of digital inclusion funding go round, and I think we're going to see more funding come for digital skills. And one of the questions is, how do we demonstrate success? What would be the demonstration of, right now you might be using the TABE and the Best Plus to show educational gain. What would we do similarly for digital skills? And the two things I've heard about, and I'd love again to hear if anyone else has other ways they've been doing this, these I can statements as a sort of pre and post can be used that way. And that way you're really identifying what learners want to be able to do and then that they can do those things. And then there's North Star, which is an online digital assessment that a lot of programs, you can get a certificate in, I think, 16 different topics. And they've, maybe just if every student gets at least one certificate, that is showing gain. And I think someone unmuted. Did you want to unmute and tell us what you're
Yeah, we use North Star, but the thing is with them, the students can have a profile. They eventually do the practice on their own over and over and over until they know how to answer all the proper questions.
Yep.
It's a catch-22 on
So
that
it's
one.
not necessarily showing that they have the whole skill set, but they know exactly how to answer that particular test. Is that what you're saying?
Yep.
Yeah. And the thing is, at least I know you guys, I think, have access. So you can see the back end. You can see how many times people have taken the test. It is one of the challenges with that model, but at least it's something. I can see the challenge there with people learning to the test. So that's another reason why maybe these surveys could be helpful. But again, as Ilda pointed out, it can also be an issue with language, but you can get them translated. I think Bridges does have them in Spanish and in English, I'm pretty sure. And I know that we could work on having them in multiple languages. And this one, I really just cut out. So if we're looking back at our slides, these came from let's get to these came from, did I put them here? Well, this is what the Bridges Skills website is like. I think they're in our folder. Maybe that's where I put them. Yeah. So I pulled out just the ones for teachers, but they have the same document for multiple folks. So aimed at skills for employment, for older adults, parents, education, beginning user, life, mobile user, and they're working on one for AI. And so these are just tabs along the bottom. So they're all just series of I can statements. And I just took the ones from the last column as a teacher and a trainer, because what I think we're working on is our own digital resilience right now. But then you, as a person working in your field, might want to turn around and do something like, either pull just one of these columns and ask that survey there. Or think about it as a way to think through what it is exactly that you want to be able to include in your instruction. So this document is in our folder. So this is the Bridges checklist for different learner types. As I said, I pulled one out just with the teacher stuff that you basically answered in that form. And this is all Google stuff, right? So these are Google spreadsheets. As I said, we just used Google Forms. And the nice thing with the Google Forms is you can have lots of people answering. In this case, it's anonymous, but if I do go back, so if I'm looking at my form, this is a form that I created, and so I get this little pencil over here. How would you create a Google form? Can anyone tell me how to get to Google Forms? You guys are shy.
Forms.google.com.
Beautiful, Sean. So Sean just told us a golden piece of information that is true for almost every tool. And I say almost because I haven't found one that doesn't work, but I'm guessing there's one that doesn't work. But basically with all the Google tools, if you type in the name of the type of file, so this was forms, so forms.google.com, that will take you to all of the forms you've ever created if you're in Drive, if you're logged in to your Google Drive. So that is one way to get to everything. So you could do docs.google.com, slides.google.com. If I already have my Drive open, I can also get there by going to the new, right? So if I click on new, Google Forms is there. And the same with all these other file types. And there's even more file types down here. Some of these are dead. I need to edit that. And then usually someone tells us about the waffle. So if you're in Chrome, you may have this little, we call it a waffle. It's those little 9 little squares that form a square. And if you click on that, we call that the app launcher. And that shows you all the different tools that we're going to be talking about. So, and you can move things around here. So if you're someone who uses Google Photos a lot, you can move that so that it's near the top. So that was at least 3 different ways, right, that we can get to forms, but the same tools get us to all the other all the other Google file types. And that's our next question, right? So actually, were there any questions from the survey? Were there things there that you were just like, I don't even know what this means? Does anybody have any questions about that? And you can type them in the chat too if you want to. So having looked at those areas of resilience, the ability to do those things, and they're broad and they may not work, right? Today you know how to find the Wi-Fi, but tomorrow it might be different. Do you have some backup ways to think about, what's the SSID or whatever it is? So what I want us to think about through now is to think about using the Google tools. So we have these Google tools that are free to us in our Google Drives, and I want you to think about what you saw in the survey, or maybe something you're already doing with your learners around these particular digital skills, and in an applied way, how you could use these tools to do that. And I'm kind of cheating right now because what I meant to do was this, and then you have to tell me what these different tools are. Maybe remember because you just saw them, but what does the first symbol stand for? Can anyone tell?
Classroom.
Classroom, right? So this is Google Classroom, which we call a learning management system, right? So this might be where you can save all the materials that all your learners need. Was there anything about learning management systems on that survey?
Can't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember either. I think there was, but anyway. So learning management systems, what kinds of skills do people get by using a learning management system? Well, what would be the benefit of using a learning management system for the learner? Is there anything? Yeah, go ahead.
Access to the materials and organization, and always using the skills learned to retrieve materials
Right.
and keeping track of what they've learned.
Excellent. So yeah, it's a really handy way for them to be able to get back to all the materials they might need. And it is very similar to maybe an LMS they might use if they go on to college, or in their work environment, they may have to use a shared, cloud for saving all of their resources and all the work that they do. So think about that when you decide to use a tool. Like, how does the thing that you're doing, and with Google particularly, how does it mimic something or increase skills that would be something you would use in real life? So when they leave your classroom, this is something they might still use, right? In my family, I'm the person, if we're planning a vacation or something, and I mean my extended family, my siblings, I'm going to use a spreadsheet to organize everything. And in maybe 5 years ago, they would all laugh at me for doing that. Now they kind of all do it too. So, thinking about how we use these tools as we know what they do for us. So what's this next image icon? This one here.
Drive.
Drive, exactly. So Drive is that triangle with all the Google calendars in there. And how could you use Drive with learners to develop digital skills? Or what digital skills do people get when they are using Drive? How would it be something that is similar to real life if you
They have
practice?
to organize files in the system and be able to retrieve them.
And I think
They,
that retrieving piece is so important, right? The ability
yeah,
to, and I like that Sharon's mentioning sharing documents with teachers and classmates.
collaborating.
So collaboration is a really good one. And I'm just seeing now people have been answering in the chat. Sorry, I missed you guys there. Storing information so you can get back to it. This ability to go back and find the thing you want, is that not like one of the most frustrating things? Like, I just don't even know. It's just out there somewhere, right? We want to know where our stuff is. So getting very clear in how you save your documents, what you name your files, which file you're looking for, all of those things, I think. And then those skills are mimicked in real life. Like maybe you're even still using a filing cabinet or something. It's gonna be very similar to that. All right, we are running out of time. Let's go. What's the green one? Can anyone tell me what the green icon is?
Sheets.
Sheets, exactly. And it's like Excel. And as someone pointed out to me once, it's numbers, so it's green because it's like money. So with Google, it's actually very effective to know these icons because they will show up in the tabs across the top of your window. And if you have multiple documents open, maybe you only have one Sheets doc open, and you can immediately see that that's the Sheets doc. So this is something for you and for your learners to get very familiar with, what the icons are. So playing this game of what icon goes with what name is actually a good one. So those are Sheets. The next one, the blue one,
Docs.
docs, very nice. And then the last one here,
Forms.
forms, exactly. So purple is forms. We just looked at that. Let's look at our next page. We have a few more of these. What's this M?
Gmail.
Right, so it's M for mail, and we know it's Gmail. And what about this little symbol here, the second one?
Chat.
Chat, exactly. So it looks like a little bit like a speech bubble. So we have Gmail, we have Google Chat. What's the next one? So we had a purple one before that was our forms. This has a slightly different color purple and it's got a different image in the middle of it. Can anyone tell me what that one is? It's a little tricky because it's not a great, I don't know, maybe, so it's Google Sites. So you can make a free website using Google Sites. So that kind of looks like a website, maybe, I don't know. And then what's the last one here?
Google Meet.
Google Meet, fantastic. So a video platform, right, that we might use to even meet with our learners. All right, so one last page. What's this icon for with a number 31 in it? What has 31 associated with it? Possibly.
Calendar.
Calendar, exactly. So calendar, it can be an amazing tool for people to get themselves really organized, right? A family could share a calendar, a Google Calendar, and know when doctor's appointments are, when school days off, or teacher parent conference days or whatever. So, you know, using calendar to assign deadlines for work can be really good practice. What about the next one? It's kind of connected. So it's called tasks, and it's really their to-do list. But you can connect it with the calendar. So you can create a list of tasks and have a deadline with the tasks, and that'll show up in the calendar. And then the last one of my favorites that very few people have ever seen before. Looks kind of like a light bulb. Yes, Sharon says Keep. I love Google Keep. So Google Keep is like a, well, we'll look at it in a moment. Yes. Google Think would be a great name. I like that. So that's Google Keep. So we're going to move through the slides because we're running out of time. But if you wanted to go and learn more about how to use all these tools, there is the Applied Digital Skills lessons that Google has put together, and there's a link here to play with that. We'll look at that in the future clubs. So instructional routines, quickly, just to go over what those are. So you may be familiar with instructional routines as just something like every time you teach new vocabulary, you have a quiz and people make sentences with the new vocabulary words. Like that will be your routine. Every time you ask your learners to pull out their books to do that, they know exactly what's going to happen and it gets them ready to go, right? So routines can be very helpful for us. And what I have here is a link to the, I said I steal stuff from the math people. So this is the math, the Adult Numeracy Network, and they have this amazing list of routines that they use, which not all of them work for tech, but a lot of them do. You might just have to translate them slightly. So you'll know, you have notice and wonder here. Anyway, so we'll come back and look at those in future meetings for sure. So those are instructional routines in general. And now we're going to talk about instructional routines from the sense of a, no, did I do? Yeah, well, okay. So routines for foundational skills. So connecting the routines to basic skills, right? So how do you find your Wi-Fi settings screen? Have a notice and wonder, right? So you show, say, maybe two images and have people tell you what do they notice, what do they wonder. So they spend time really observing and looking at what's going on and really kind of penetrating, having some penetrating thoughts, rather than you just going in and pointing out things. Same with would you rather, right? This is not a digital skill per se, but it's something to think about with your data plan and your Wi-Fi. You know, would you rather one or the other? Why? You know, these are things to be thinking about. So here's my notice and wonder, and I kind of gave it away, although not everyone will know what it is, but you can kind of see the word keep up here. So if I was to show you this screen and not tell you anything else, what are some things you notice? What do you think this is used for? What do you see up here that tells you what maybe it's used for? So one thing I notice is this bar at the top that says take a note, right? So I see a bar that says take a note. I'm guessing this is for note taking maybe. And then I notice over here on the side some different things. I don't know what these are, but it looks like reminders. Maybe I can tell it to remind me to do something, or it's like a to-do list. So to do notice and wonder, it takes a while for everyone to get familiar with it. But if I was to come back to next Google Club and you decide it's worth coming back to Google Club and I bring out notice and wonder, you're going to start knowing, okay, she's going to make us do this thing again. But you'll get used to doing it. So the first time you do a routine, it sometimes can feel very difficult. It might take a little while for everyone to kind of get ready to do it again. But once you use something like that, it does immediately, move people into a certain position, and then you get to that work. Because we're running out of time, I'm not going to spend lots of time on that, but we would spend some time on what are you noticing? What do you think is going on here? What can you do here? And then we'd say, what do you wonder? And you'd be like, well, is it free? Can I share this with other people? Can I delete things? Like, what are my wonders as well? And that way of interrogating the world is at the base of becoming digital resilient, because you have to imagine beyond what is now. You have to think about what is possible. Could I do that? Is that, how do I share that with someone? Can I change my cursor? I don't know. All right. So we talked about general routines. These were instructional routines that came from the math people. What the Bridges people have done is created what they call EdTech instructional routines. And these are very specific. This is, again, a way to bring the use of tech into your instruction so that, you create an activity where there's an online expedition. And every time you're going to talk about maybe a new famous person in your class, it starts off with an online expedition where people kind of go and do a scavenger hunt inside on the internet or something like that. That you practice filling out forms. So maybe it's a medical form this week, and next week it's a, starting a bank account form, or making a medical form, or whatever it is. So we're practicing what all the skills are in using a form online, but we're doing it over and over again. So that's how it becomes routine. So they have a lot of routines. I just put a few up here. If you go to the digital skills library, these are the gateway skills that we've been talking about today, and these are all the resources that they have, and I search for routines. So these are all the routines, and there are 2 pages of them. So that might be a place to start thinking for yourself and for your learners about a routine you might want to bring into your instruction. These are not going to be Google specific. So the question then would be, how could these fit with Google? Does Google fit here? Maybe it doesn't. Maybe you're using a different tool. Filling out forms, Google Forms definitely would be a good tool there. Okay. All right, so I'm going to actually take us to the survey. So I know we're really right on the edge of time. So scan that QR code. I'll put this link in the chat. Let me get us out of this. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask them. You can unmute. We are done. So if you need to run away, I totally understand that. But do fill out that survey. It really helps me know what I should do to improve future sessions. And also our funder wants to know what you think. So that number of surveys is always really important for us. And our next session will be in October. Let's go back up and see what the topic is there. It is. So yeah, next one is collaborating with confidence, teamwork, and communications with Google. So that's what we'll be looking at. So if you have examples of doing work like that, do feel free to bring it. We always want to hear from you about what you're already doing, and then I'll share some stuff that I found interesting to share with you. Thank you guys. Thank you, Camille and Marika. I see you in the chat. Thank you, everybody. I'll go back to that survey in case you didn't get there. And have a great rest of the evening.